Okay, this is another discussion. It might be a long recording, but it's going to be dealing with something entirely different that is part of Game of Four, and that is, I call it doors. So I'm not really going to try to move her around to impress anyone here. What you're going to try to look at in gaming is talking, I use the word doors or portals, and how virtual reality, in many ways, has incorporated what I call a lot of things which are metaphysical in some ways. I like using that word metaphysical, and looking at the paranormal and then trying to look at things in a way that is a little different than what that is, and also looking at quantum mechanics to a point. Trying to explain things in this way is going to lose a lot of people. But you're trying to explain something that, as a community, and a souls community, and definition of a souls community. What is a souls community? For me, that means breathing people and the earth. So that means souls community from gaming, but then again, souls community as part of the planet, planet Earth. That's souls community. But trying to do this is trying to show something. Virtual reality in some ways. We play in it all the time. In gaming, a virtual reality, somebody puts on goggles and they go into sometimes where I look at things and say wormhole. Looking at things in that perspective is something which is fascinating because gaming has all the elements of hauntings in some ways. This is where things become quite conflicting. Say, what are you talking about in terms of hauntings? It's not that kind of way, not in the sense. But in gaming, there's one thing to point out. When you look at gaming, in a sense, you are the host, and what you do is summon phantoms, virtual phantoms, ghosts, in a sense. So this is showing something that's not about trying to say this is supernatural. This is talking about things in such a way to understand the word doors or portals. How do they work, in a sense? Or can they work? The earth is also has X points. But the one thing to look at within gaming is trying to show something visually how this may be. When you look at things in this area, for example, this is all our. I look at it and say, well, that's a wall over there. This is a virtual reality. So when you see something in virtual reality, you say, well, that is what it seems to be. When you hit it, is it really there? When you get into some things and try to understand things in such a way, the virtual reality world is a lot like our world. We blend in a lot of things that we see. We want to blend them into reality. So, talking about a door in a sense, try to imagine the earth as a bubble. And someone said, okay, I live in a bubble. I'm the only one in that bubble. And there's no entrance in the actual bubble. No way to get in, no way to get out. That's how people see us. We always say we are alone, which is biggest nonsense of all times. First, you're never alone. Your body is full of all kinds of germs and chemicals and all kinds of things. There's life on your body with all kinds of parasites, so you're not really entirely alone. The idea that somehow we exist in a vacuum all alone with billions of stars and all the things around us, and somehow we're stupid enough to think that that's all we are. If there's a God in heaven, or what do you even believe in, he only made one life on one planet. Created billions and billions of stars and somehow galaxies, and you're saying you're the only one here. Nonsense in some ways. But let's go back. So, suppose this is my world. All of this is my entire existence in a sense. When I look around me, everything I see right here is what I see. This is my life. This is who I am. Everything about this place. There you go. Yeah. About what I'm doing here is my entire existence. Everything I was brought up, everything about my country, everything about my reality, everything about my home is right in this building. So, question, how did the building get there? What is the history of the building? When you start to look at something, how you perceive things, how you understand them, okay, the first thing in my bubble is I have doors in the bubble. So I can go from this area here, and I can go on this side. right into this. What happens when I go through the door? It changes my perspective. When I'm over here, I have this all around me. Everything within this area, hole right there, could be something. You imagine what? Not just simply a door, a tunnel. Something like a wormhole that exists. Around me are things I perceive to be real. When someone says, I don't believe in anything is real, that is true, to a point. When you look at something, you say, imagine if this were real, huh? To me, these objects are in the game, and I say, that is a real thing. That's real. But the thing you start understanding, if I hit it, the sound is artificial. So that object in a virtual world has substance, and yet it doesn't. So question, consciousness, beyond what you call your mortal coil, in a sense. Is that imagined or is it real? The perception of something like that goes into religion, goes into science. So trying to understand something between the two is fascinating. When you get into things, trying to imagine exactly. I live in a bubble. That is what I perceive. My senses, sound, taste, touch, breathing, in a sense. All these senses are synapses. We were wired for that since birth. Everything about us is that. When we perceive things in such a way, we seem to lose objectivity in a sense. We look at things around us and say, well, that's real, that's real, that's real. But when you try to imagine the world, a universe, as a bubble, there you go again. The bubble, the bubble, come on, you can't do that here. The bubble, you go through it, okay? And the bubble is not really there. What's there are doors. When people try to imagine apparitions or ghosts, there is something to point out to people. They exist in a virtual world. We play in the virtual world. And these concepts are abstracts in some ways. When we see these things as a game, you can see them clearly. You can see the object, someone summons some phantom in, the phantom comes in, digital. There's my ghost right there. There he is. Digital ghost. He's playing there in virtual reality. Does ghost exist? And there's one right there. So you ask a question. How does it work on the physical plane? How do these things come in and come out of our reality? And the thing you have to understand is simply this. Many times over, particles come in and out of things we look at all around us. They always do. They always come in, they come out. The problem we don't understand is since we can't see these things like gravity in a sense, we can feel it, we know it's there. But trying to perceive something in a physical world, we accept doors. We understand the concept of doors because I do that every day. I don't even think about it. I go to work, my schedule, I go to my doing the same thing every day. I get up in the same morning, I go to work, I'm doing something, here's my meal, everything is on the clock. I go through a door, I go through my car door to go to work again, drive there, and then you get into things which seem to make sense, but then when someone says, hey, look, I saw something. The problem with people that say I saw something is because we do not understand the concept of portals. We just don't. We don't see the portal. Don't see it. Don't see the door. I can see that door. I know that door is there. But then, in a cosmic sense, when people go about their day-to-day existence, I'm driving to work. That is your perception of your reality in some ways. When you understand that concept, you can understand possibly that something also moves around in different ways. There's one thing interesting. I call out anyone watching this stupid channel. If you look at my quote-unquote ghost, how can I say this? My ghost video. It isn't the actual video of the ghost that makes it more fascinating. It's how the ghost is moving. And this is something to talk about here because it's fascinating. Why is something moving backwards? Is that a camera glitch? Did I fake it? And the answer is no. About it is trying to explain things that something is moving interdimensionally in some ways. When something of apparitions come forward to look at something, they're looking. Why they look is a question mark. And then they retreat quickly. Always when you see some kind of footage of an apparition or some kind of ghost, the thing you always see is this, a shape of something, it's there, and it vanishes. Why always, when you try to understand apparitions, There's always something to point out to people. Understanding particle science is probably the first thing of understanding apparitions. How they work. Why is something there? It wants to be seen, and then it darts off. Always, when you see something of some type of apparition, it always seems to be moving very quickly. Why? Why is that? There's some type of senses that we don't understand. A different type of dimension, in a sense that exists in a sense. And then when you see it happening, we don't have any logic to it because we see things in such a way. There are also some things I point out to people that listen to my video and try to educate the brain. There's things called residual. Residual, something is left. When a portal opens, somehow, here's my 2 cents. When a portal opens up in someone's house, someone has multiple things inside the house. Somehow the portal comes in. People have passed, sometimes leave a record, a vocal record, or something they leave of themselves. They're there passing through. When something comes into the living, they are attracted to the living. Because I'm alive. I used to be alive. So I'm coming through a portal door, and they try to become attractive to what the living are. And then for some reason, I can't explain it, the portal closes, and then they go back to where they come from. Sometimes those records of an accident, I have one which is an EVP, which I still say, if someone listens to it, you'll hear, if it is true, someone's talking, calling out to God, calling out for help, calling out for a doctor. All of that is residual. Someone who is stuck in an accident, the last moment, somehow that gets recorded. That somehow goes into another dimension. Or the earth records it. How that works, I have no idea. I'm guessing. I'm talking crap right now. But I'm talking like this. You're trying to explain what a game of four is. Game of time. Game of dimensions. Game of quantum mechanics. Games of particles that we don't have any comprehension of what a particle does. And then sometimes my character here do her thing. My help. Okay, so let's see if she does anything here. But anyway, trying to discuss what this is in a virtual world. So when someone says an apparition, I point out 2 things. Number 1, the apparition itself is a digital apparition. Digital. Can digital apparitions exist? And the answer is yes. We call them hackers in some ways. A digital apparition. An avatar is a digital apparition. Digital apparition in some ways. When we play through digital app, we call them avatars, and we have that sense that we control the avatar. And we do to sense, but the avatar, I still say, is learning. Most avatars in these 2-bit systems do not know enough. But can they be learning? And the answer is yes. We have avatars. We have all kinds of things with tech. We have chatbots. We have all kinds of things emerging into an intelligence. An emerging type of intelligence that comes in this way. Gaming always seems to be like a laboratory because CGI effects and all things like this always seem to mirror intelligence, artificial intelligence, or supernatural intelligence to a point. Understanding that concept is why we always seem to be ignorant. We always seem to say our daily lives is in physical existence as much as I can tell it. When you start to understand things in a different way, you lose sight. When someone looks up to the sky and they say, well, that's over what? 15 billion light years away, and they say it takes that long for the light to come to me, I just see it as a night sky. I look up and there's a blinking star in the sky. That's all I see. It's just that. So my conception of what I'm looking at is always distorted. Always understanding that reality is a blend also of fantasy as well. The senses and synapses, we seem to see things. There it is. I saw something. Here is this, UFO. Here is this UAP. But understanding doors and portals is a secret. Cosmology, but particle science is where the answer lies for some of these things. Mysteries. Why is it my GPS is not working right? Why is it that? Because something is moving another way. Something we don't process because we're too stupid to understand that we are not in a physical plane. We are in something you may call a virtual reality in some ways. That concept is not foreign. Trying to understand this is a virtual world. And when you look at it, we look at things like this. It's physical. I know it is. But molecules behave in a certain kind of way. Energy behaves in a certain kind of way. We believe in the physical world. But I can sense and touch. I understand that part. But when I can't sense it, the problems I have is that I don't believe in it. I can't. I can't believe what this is. I can see the game though. I accept a virtual reality. I put a virtual VR helmet on, and my senses, my synapses are altered. Now I can see things and experience things in a different way, like going through a portal. Derby Girl is an idea of trying to enrich the synapses and look at things from different perceptions. You get into ideas and you try to stimulate the brain to see something different. My eyes, when they get older, I see blurs, I see halos. But at the same time, it gives me the fact there's other things happening. It gives me some type of perception to see things in different ways. We perceive things to be a certain kind of way. When we see them, we don't understand consciousness in some ways. We only understand only one thing, gratification of the self. For me, I always say that is one. A game of four. One. What is one? For me, in a game of four, one is a second hand, a minute hand. We understand that part. Our lives are always too fast. We live as youth, we move so fast, and I call that one. A game of four. So a game of one is the self. Moving too fast at times. That's youth. A game of two, you would say, is an hour hand. For the old people, hour hand. Time moves so slowly. Three is the center of a clock. The balance of law and nature, in a sense, laws made by man, is three. Four, a game of four, in a sense, is the last moment of life. The last moment of a life. A particle, a star, a human life. Living at the four. Five, where it comes from that, is death, or to lie under the grace of God. Five. Understanding these concepts are abstracts. Numbers, numerical things have no value. But understanding the concept of this channel is trying to understand, what are you trying to do with this channel? Are you trying to make profits? Are you trying to make likes? Are you trying to have people listen to you? The profit is there, yes. But in a sense, do I give a damn about people's opinions to a point? No. The thing is, what you're trying to do here is trying to educate a brain. Open it up. When you see things and understand things, are they really what they seem to be? People seem to do things always, with the exception of always likes and always demerits, which makes sense. But the problem is this: the discussion gets lost many times over. Many times over, people are more concentrated on the formats of making a buck than understanding what it is. The format is what it's about. The creation of an idea is more intoxicating for me personally, and trying to see people wake up, in a sense, ask questions, search. Why are you here? What is the purpose of living a life? Why do you exist? What is the day-to-day? What are you after? The person you're married to. What are you trying to do? And then you get into something else you think this way. It seems to be just something. When you understand what that is, then you have to go through a door yourself. You have to somehow grow up and understand. You're not alone on the planet. You have neighbors. Oh yeah, that part. Stars, galaxies. Can other things exist? And understanding that part is maturity. Understanding, in a sense, that when you live your life in this kind of way, what you're doing, in a sense, is knowing that there are other things also exist on a different level of understanding, enlightenment, in a sense, but then understanding possible. Can a portal exist? Can something else, when someone says Bermuda Triangle, that's an exploit in some ways. It's there. How it works is a mystery still. Because we don't understand things, because our synapses, sometimes over, is just that. We believe in the physical world. That's what I am. I'm a physical being. I'm not a spiritual being, in a sense. I still live in this I call mortal coil, in a sense. I want to call it that. It sounds more exotic, but still, that's what it is. When you try to understand concepts, abstracts, you look at gaming. Gaming always seems to have everything that's there. There it is. That's a flyer, right? Sound effects. My brain tells me that's a fire. I know it is, but it's artificial. But still, when I give it a name, it has some type of substance. Gaming always seems to have things that always seems to be just that. They're real and yet artificial. When I look at it, I can understand it. It's a wall. But someone designed it. Or did it evolve? But then understanding that that wall is in my imagination. But still somehow I give it substance. If portals exist, and they do, how do they work? And defining it as a door is just trying to give it a physical sense. When someone says a door, if I said, do doors exist? And what do I see beyond the door? The concept of doors is just trying to reference wormholes. White dwarfs in some ways, trying to explain the possibilities of passage through one. When someone says, well, here's this, here's a UPA, UFO, who knows what it is. It's moving through portals. That's why we see things, we're too stupid, because somehow something is coming through our space and interacting with our space. We do not understand the concept. We know in the movies, warp drive. I see it clearly how it works, although I have no idea how it works. Star Wars, I see something that suggests what that is, and I see it moving with CGI. CGI is always what I say when you have the imagination. You put in CGI. The brain processes it with it. I know what that is. I saw the movie for it. Your brain is tricked on understanding some things. But the thing is it real? The concepts always seem to move further and further to the truth. In some ways, they do. Because we look at things and say, well, here's this. I know what it is. I saw the movie. But then you take it into real life and say, well, that doesn't exist because I know it doesn't exist. That's a movie. But fantasy and reality blend into what I call the normal life. The discussion of intellect, in some ways, is trying to understand synapses, the flaw of synapses. When you have it in such a way, you render yourself, well, stupid. Because you can't accept things, in some ways. If doors in space do exist, and I say they do, we don't understand the concept. Because something's moving through it and coming through our space. Bending space-time, in some ways, goes into some things we understand, and yet we don't. Can other cultures be doing this kind of stuff? And here's where things are interesting. Perhaps you have something coming this way. When you understand apparitions, we understand gaming to a sense. How gaming works, I can summon a phantom, and someone comes through, and I understand that concept. When I play a game, through what this is, the medium of virtual reality. Someone comes through it, the space, I play with them. I summon, there they are. I play with them. A digital person, a digital ghost. Most animes have tackled that one for a long time. The ghost in the machine. Consciousness in a sense. The other parts of this is what we still don't understand. Can multiple dimensions exist? And they do. We've never seen them. The universe somehow is laid out in different ways. How it works, is it endless? Or did it come with a big bang, several bangs? We don't understand even stars. Not really. Not entirely. Our logic is based on one thing, Hubble. The questions are Webb. The exotics, trying to understand what they are. The complexity of a door. So what is the fascination of a door anyway? Why even call this video, winded video like this one, doors? Trying to have people look at things physically. I go through a door every day. I know the time I go through that door, when I'm going to work, when I'm coming home. I know all of it. I know the principles of that. But then when someone says a virtual door, a wormhole, how does it work? When someone has a higher being in a sense, how do they move? Apparitions, how do they move through what? A virtual world. When someone says residual, what do you mean? Something is left. When someone sees something, like someone's walking up the stairs, I see someone floating in the air. And you find out, well, there was a building there. The building is left there, and somehow that, whatever that is walking up those stairs, because that's what it remembers. Somehow, something retains the memory of what that is. Does the earth do it? Who knows? Is that supernatural? It depends how you see things, I suppose. Particle science, in many ways over, has the answers for these things. We don't understand particles. We want to understand them because particles act differently. Consciousness somehow, if it exists beyond death in a sense, is lying in particles. Understanding particles and how they behave gives you the answer to an afterlife. We don't understand that part. We're too stupid. Too stupid in some ways. We understand the physical. I don't believe in this because I've only seen it with my eyes. And then your brain try to process something. You see something, I've experienced it, because then the person who's based on synapses, it calls you a disbeliever. You don't believe in anything. That doesn't exist because I say it doesn't exist. I've never seen that. You're basing what you say on one thing only. The person who experienced something could be flawed in some ways, but then experiencing something different is because we do not understand doors, portals, how they work, how things come into our lives and don't come out in our lives. We don't understand the concept. We can't see it. And we do see it. Someone says, here's this. I keep on telling you the same thing. People for years are constantly going over, falling over themselves, saying, I saw this, I experienced this, and always there's a sense of nonsense and a sense of belief in a sense. You experience something you can't explain. Portals are suggesting exactly something moves in and something moves out. My recording of quote unquote apparition could be a flawed camera. It could be a camera that's just garbage. But the one thing that's interesting is if that is anything, why is it moving backwards? Why would an apparition move backwards? Fascination. Always when I see things about quote unquote apparition, no one asks questions. Why is it moving backwards? Why does a head appear? Why, when something appears which is not anything physical, does it seem to manifest in some way? It leaves a hand, leaves a head. Always ignorance, ignorance. Always we want to be entertained. We want to be frightened as children. We want to be. There goes bump the door. It goes bump. We want to get into these things because we're taught that way. But we don't want to understand one thing. We don't want to understand things. We want to run from things. Always ignorance is what we have. We don't seem to understand things that way. Portals, do they exist? They do exist. When you look at doors, do they exist? Are they real? Huh? Woody Hope? Huh? You see that door? Huh? You do. There is that right there. When I put this in front of someone and say, oh, I know which one that's doing, it's just something on the foot on the line. But trying to present something with an argument with AI and trying to show someone something different. Try to wrap your brain around this, okay? This is called Game 4. Invasions are from the synapses. My talismans are insignificant. The assault is for the brain. And trying to show something different. Is that a ghost coming through the place? I leave it up to you to decide.